Have you taken a moment to dream? What is it? An illusion, an intangible item, or perhaps possibility? As beings, we each boast our own idea as to what the American dream consists of. We've heard of it time and time again. To many, it encompasses a realm of possibilities, while for others, it serves as a figment of the imagination. Does it actually exist? What does it mean? Presently, America is the only land that conceives the idea of having a national dream. Many persons of different cultures and nations, all walks of life, come to build and live that dream. While sometimes those domestic are often found struggling to find it. In analyzing the works of several 20th century authors, such as Lorraine Hansberry, August Wilson, Langston Hughes, and Arthur Miller, who have all had themes and concepts of the American dream. And my desire to explore the topic in greater detail and capture understanding of the concept from others. It is my most esteemed honor and pleasure to present to you, I Too Dream. It is indeed a yearning for the American dream.
Success when individuals are provided an opportunity to achieve their goals in life. Living.
The vision I have of myself at my future best.
Working as hard as you can to achieve as much as you can.
Going for what you really desire out of life. And when you go for what you really desire, you have faith. You have faith that this nation was so designed for anyone who desired to achieve a certain goal, that it was ready, this nation was ready, this country will embrace, the opportunities will be here. So the American dream is having the faith that you can be what you really want to be.
Being able to determine your own destiny, to make decisions in your best interest without being hindered by an institution.
The American dream is a combination of success and happiness. It's when people are able to kind of either on one hand maybe better themselves or better than family, or achieve a particular goal that they set out to do. And I think that the idea is that that makes them happy, that gives them sort of access to happiness that other people can't access.
To me, the American dream is, just providing for my family to have the most successful life that we can possibly have.
When I think about the American dream, I think of my mama and my daddy. In Mississippi, they are alive and well now, 71 and 72, and all my life I saw them work really hard. My mother worked at a shirt factory, sewing shirts at one time, and then painting, just a garment factory. And there's nothing necessarily remarkable about that, other than the fact that she has severe debilitating arthritis. But so that we, her 5 children and her grandchildren, all those who came after her, could succeed and not have to work in shirt factories necessarily unless we chose to. She went to work every day in pain, and my dad worked at a lumber mill all his life, just retired a few years ago. And I think that the American dream is for African Americans especially, is when we see where we are and we're able to look down the road, look in the future, and really see how we can make it better for our children without handicapping them, without sending them out into the world not equipped, but we can live some of our dreams, but really we work so that the future generations can achieve their dreams.
I would describe the American dream with three A's that I quite often speak about. And one is achievement, having the opportunity to achieve. Secondly, attitude. I think that attitude plays an important part, a critical role in the direction of the path that you take, not just in the beginning, but forever. If you have the right attitude and the right mindset, the American dream lives on. And it enables you not only to do the best for yourself, but also it will give you the attitude and mindset to do and serve others as well. And lastly, it's important to have the affirmation of continuing to aspire to do something to make a difference in your life.
My definition of the American dream is obtainable. I've already obtained it.
Yes, absolutely. Not only attainable, but again, because of the sacrifices of those who have gone before us, particularly for African Americans, it's attainable, but you got to know what it is for you. It can't be this big, ambiguous thing of getting stuff and people knowing your name and all of that. It has to become something personal for you. What is your American dream? You can't attain it until you know it. You can't get it until you see it. But once you see it, you can certainly have it.
Yes, I do believe that the American dream is attainable. It depends on how much you want to sacrifice and ensuring that the American dream is fulfilled and how much hard work you want to put into it. And I truly believe that one should really have the idea of going beyond the call of duty, of working outside of the box to reach the American dream, because it's attainable based upon the experience of great hard work.
I absolutely believe it's attainable. No matter what your situation is, you know, whether you're poor, middle class, rich, white, black, whoever, doesn't matter. I feel like it's attainable.
I think I'm still striving for it. I think that whenever we set a goal, a new goal appears, and if it doesn't, I guess we're dead. So for me, even at this point in my life, where I think by many people's measure, I've achieved some things. You know, I have degrees, and I have what most people would say a good job, and I have some material success. I collect, you know, I have a house and own property and this kind of thing. But for me, that's not enough, and that's...
Well, I've been given an opportunity to use my gifts and my talents to help people and to maximize them. So I don't look at the accomplishments that I have per se as being evidenced by the material things that I have, but by me as a person being able to do in this earth what I feel the Creator has given me the mission to do.
I don't know that you ever achieve anything. You're in the process of. I'm reminded of a story about the train ride that goes across the country. You never really arrive at the station. It's always part of the trip. And so our goal is to always do your best to achieve what that dream is. But in reality, I don't know that you ever achieve it.
I think first and foremost that I have achieved the American dreams just by taking advantage of the opportunities in which it has propelled me to do.
The other thing is it has prepared me adequately to move forward with the dreams and the visions that I've had for myself, the goals that I've had for myself. It has afforded me to be very focused and have a great sense of determination in reaching my goals.
Well, personally, I don't feel like I've achieved the dream yet. I'm still striving toward something bigger, something better. And until I reach some of my personal goals that I've set for myself professionally, I won't feel like I've made it, now.
So then the country embraced my dream. All of a sudden, because of the civil rights movement, the national search for African American students entering major universities, opportunities opened up. So by the time I was in my junior year of college, opportunities to go to graduate school opened up. And applications, announcements were put all on the bulletin boards all around my undergraduate school professor's office. And I applied to them. And before you knew it, I received scholarships to go to graduate school. So success for me was based on the opportunities that America promised in the American dream. I believed in America. Even though growing up in the South, I knew many times that opportunities would be stopped because of the color of my skin. But when God is in the plan, there's nothing that can stop you. All of a sudden, God opened the doors for this little black girl to receive support from the federal Social Security, support from the national higher education, support from the community that was already there, and support from the rest of my family. So my success, if it can be called success, my achievements, my steps in life were supported, embraced, and validated by what the American dream says it should be. Some people didn't want it to happen that way, but when God is in the plan, ain't no stopping us.
Education has long been seen as the best way to achieve the American dream. And in modern times, millions of people seek a higher education for financial stability, to do better for their families, and for many, many more reasons. But as the late, great Malcolm X once stated, education is the passport for our future. For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. A good head and a good heart are always a formidable contribution and always a great combination. But when you add to that a literate tongue or pen, then you have something very special. Therefore, you must learn something.
If you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention.
Through education, you can also better yourselves in other ways. You learn how to think critically and find solutions to unexpected challenges.
Education is a pathway. It is a path to, again, achieving material things, getting the house and the car and all that stuff. That's one path to it. But I think, again, when we tie it to our people, when we tie it to African Americans and our elders and our ancestors, those who have gone on and those who have transitioned, I think that we owe a debt of getting as much education as we can, as much as we can tolerate and afford. I think that we owe a debt to those who came before us because it was denied them. They were killed, beaten, eyes put out. I mean, so much because they wanted to learn to read. They wanted to know how to read the Bible that was used as a weapon against them. They wanted to know what it really said for themselves. But they were not allowed to go to school, to read, to write. All of those things we take for granted. So I think on some level we owe a debt to those who came before us, and we owe a debt to those who will come after us to be examples of how education can be that tool to the future and to accessing the American dream. Education is
Now, there are a lot of different educations. Some people just say travel is educational. Certainly going into an academic environment is educational, not necessarily from the academic side, but from the social side, because being in a college or university setting gives you so much greater opportunity for that interaction, that intersocial skills that you can develop. So from that standpoint, getting an education, as I said earlier, it gives you a higher degree of probability to achieve what that vision you have of your future best self.
I think on some levels, getting an education is very important to the American dream because it gives people access to knowledge and allows them to make good choices about what to do. That being said, that there's a lot of different professions out there and things that people want to do that aren't necessarily tied to education, but I know that for our family, one of the reasons that we've achieved a lot is through education. My dad came from, his mom was a housemaker, his dad was a policeman, and education allowed him to get a PhD and then allowed me to get a PhD. So in our family, education played a big role in that. I don't think it's necessarily for everybody, but I think it helps give people options and introduce them to things that they hadn't thought of before.
Well, a lot of people have obtained success, or what they call success, without a formal education. Some people have gotten the formal education, but the information that they needed to be successful, they didn't learn in a classroom. So when I talk about education, I'm talking about the understanding that's necessary to maximize your potential.
I believe and I know that education is the foundation of everything that we aspire to do. Education is the key to a bright future. And education is the real importance of having the value of education in terms of reaching your goals that you have for yourself. So I think it's very vital.
If you had asked me this about 15 years ago, I would have said it don't matter. But over the years since I've gotten out of the military, I found that working in today's society without it is hard. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you need to know to do the job. People just put a lot of emphasis on what level of education you have prior to giving you an opportunity at one thing or another.
There is nothing more important if you're going to participate in a democracy than being educated. I think it was James Madison who said you cannot have democracy without an educated populace, because people are making decisions about how they want to govern their lives, about what kind of country they want to be, and you cannot do that if you live in your gut. If everything you do is from your gut or from your heart even, you have to at some point understand the ramifications of things. I think people also, the thing that education provides you is a healthy dose of skepticism, so that you don't buy just anything that anybody tells you, that you learn to deconstruct things, you learn to think about things, you learn through your reading that nothing that we do is new under the sun, and that we understand various ideas from our different positionalities. So an education is absolutely crucial for me. As a matter of fact, one of the things that is a tenet of the American dream is the access of every citizen to education, that opportunity.
Education is definitely, it is invaluable, it is important. The college path is not for everybody. The PhD path is not for everybody, but everybody ought to be getting some kind of education and somewhere learning something.
Having a dream has been one of the most prolific statements of the latter 20th century. In August of 1963, on the National Mall, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. eloquently told America his dream. In a time when African Americans face great odds and disparities in income, education, and health outcomes, one could only wonder, how could they achieve the American dream?
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
Absolutely not. Historically, and even to this day, when we even define wealth or define success or affluence, those words are words that are synonymous with white culture and white America. And so sometimes even you can have an entire neighborhood built off of what we call white supremacy. When a black family moves in, everybody moves out. Because the assumption is that if a black family moves in, then somehow we have not obtained what we should obtain, and we should move to continue to aspire. And that's what generates a lot of debt. Because if people are equating their social status off of what they have, and black people become successful and obtain equal things, then that means they have to continue to try to outdo black people just to preserve their own idea of what affluence is, when their very idea may be flawed.
I would say in probably about 80% of the case, absolutely not. Now the other 20, like I was saying before, if they're already successful, if they've already made it, or become something, then yeah, it's absolutely a better opportunity for them to be successful and be profitable and be well off and whatnot. And for the other 80%, it's really hard because they can't afford to go to college on their own unless they get a scholarship, for the most part, which means at the very least they're not going to be able to attain the level of education. They're not going to be able to sustain it to finish a degree. A lot of people start. It's a lot more people that don't finish.
I think just, again, growing up in the American Southwest where there weren't a lot of black people, but where there were a lot of Hispanic and Native Americans, I think I just would want to say that I think it's hard for any minority groups on some levels to achieve that dream. And whether it's, Hispanics, whether it's Native Americans, whether it's poor rural white Americans, even a lot of people like me, like middle class white women, feel that a lot of things are out of their reach. So that, I think there are certain specifics that make things different for black people in America, but that, the standard that we have to achieve this dream is really, there's a lot of other factors barring a lot of other different types of people from it.
No, not in the beginning. They've had to evolve certain things over the decades to kind of include them among others, just because the American dream was written for white men, not white people, white men, and that's why women have had such a hard time over the years to get to, they're not even there yet. They're still complaining about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a never-ending thing. It's continuous until everybody feels like they have the same opportunity. It's never going to be right.
I think that comparatively speaking, African Americans compared, for example, to Caucasians, to European Americans, I think that we will never have equal access, because a lot of the access, unfortunately, the way society categorizes and classifies achieving the American dream, a lot of that is access through wealth, through not being rich. But we're talking old money. We're talking money from generations and generations and generations that have been passed down in families. There are very few African American families who have wealth. And that is a major access point for the American dream. And in that regard, I would say, no, we don't have the same access. But here's the blessing. Here's the open door. Is that we, through now being able to become rich and not necessarily wealthy, we can turn the tide. We can start now becoming those African American entrepreneurs and professionals who leave wealth for our children and don't let them squander it, and teach them then how to make more wealth from us being rich and passing it on to their children, We have generations now. My generation now has the ability to do that for our children, so that 3 generations down the road, when your grandchild is doing this same type of thing, wealth won't be an issue, because we will have learned how to turn riches, temporary money, into wealth.
All right, so when I think black people are the biggest dreamers in the world. And the thing I love about our people is, despite everything we see, nothing kills our imagination. You know, people talk about how black people have survived. We survived slavery, we survived the black codes, we survived Jim Crow, we survived segregation, we're surviving this particular current reiteration of Jim Crow and segregation in the prison industrial complex. But despite it all, black people didn't just survive, they thrived. They produced. They produced philosophy, they produced music, art, everything there was to produce. Everything that really is American, most American about America, for me, comes out of black people's imagination and black people's experience.
A majority of what America has taken credit for is actually should be due to African Americans. So because of slavery, because of Jim Crow, because of renewed Jim Crow and the laws, the violence, the policies, the songs, the hymns, all of the different types of things that have been created to make things look different, America has been the biggest benefactor of black misery. And so until that is changed, until the relationship between blacks and whites has changed to whereby white people are no longer dependent on black people, I think black people will continue to stay in the situation that they're in.
I don't know that blacks have any different dreams than whites or Hispanics or Asians. Everybody wants the best for themselves and for their family. You know, my dream, and we're beginning to see reality of it, is when I drive down the streets in the neighborhood, we see blacks and white, Hispanic, Asian children all playing together. It's a generational thing, so I would have us having that dream that Martin Luther King had.
Like America and dreams of our ancestors and our elders, I think it was very clear to them how important it was to work towards dreams. And I think that the dream was clearer for them because they did not have access to so much. It's sometimes hard to dream when everything is given to you. It's sometimes hard to imagine or to want or to even structure a path for your life when everything is given to you on a silver platter and you don't have to work for anything, you don't have to struggle for anything. So I think that that is where African Americans are now. We are at a place where, as a people, we need to develop a collective dream for our children, for our future generations. We have a lot, we have access to a lot, they will have a lot, they'll have access to a lot, but there has to be a higher something to which we teach them, guide them, direct them to ascribe, so that when they get the material stuff, that won't be their life. Because there's something we've poured into them. There is a collective dream. The civil rights movement was a collective dream that we will have access to, be able to do, be able to go, have the same freedoms as everybody else. What is the African American dream now?
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, 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 oh, glory, glory.
Well, I didn't know my father growing up. He left when I was really young. But I did get an opportunity to live with him for a short time in my middle school years. and you know, he was in the service, and he taught me a lot of discipline, a lot about how to respect people. You know, a lot of things that, you know, my grandmother and others had already, you know, tried to start teaching us. But when it comes from a man, it tends to carry a little more weight, a little more consequence when you don't do it. So in that aspect, it helped me out a lot. But at the same time, I only lived with him for maybe 3 or 4 years, and that was it. And basically what I take away from that is I'm never going to be that to my kids. So it was more, you know, teaching me what not to do or how not to be than it was actually you know, how to be a man or how to do different things.
My father, you know, I think he certainly, if we think about the American dream as like achieving some sort of either rise in a family position or some sort of maybe rise in economic position, he did that. You know, he came from probably a lower middle class family, and through education was able to work hard. Education that he never paid for himself because he always had fellowships or scholarships, was able to achieve his goals and then achieve, on some levels, a higher income bracket, which helped us have a more comfortable childhood. And I think, you know, his hard work was inspiring. And also, I think a lot of his value systems passed on to me in getting an education and making that important. And also, you know, maybe doing things that are off the beaten path. Like my father's a theoretical physicist. And so, you know, it was certainly, he always supported me to do whatever I wanted to, which I think allowed me to figure out what I wanted to do.
I think families come in all shapes and sizes and all kind of dynamics. My father died when I was right before my 7th birthday. So for most of my life and my upbringing, it was just me and my mom. And I do remember my father. My father was a very kind man. My mother and my father did not always have traditional roles. My father cooked and he did the cleaning because his actual job was he was the supervisor of housekeeping for the VA. And so his level of cleanliness and you know, sort of perfection, he believed in hospital corners, all of that. Nobody could live up to that. So he did it himself, right? He liked scrubbing floors and this kind of thing.
After European colonialism of Africa, and even until this day, the black family has been in a state of crisis. The black father and the black mother, in their relationship with each other and with the children, you know, has been a strained relationship. So when we speak of like a nuclear family or a traditional family, within the African context, we may have to go back to a time period prior to colonialism and slavery as a whole, as a culture. But specifically, my father, his role in my life was very important because he taught me different things that I needed to know. He pushed me in the direction that he thought that I needed to go without seriously compelling me, but he gave me the encouragement that I need. And by the example that he set in his own life, both positive and negative, gave me a good idea of how to function as a man now.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't have my father very long. I had him only about 14 years. But he was the apple of my eye, and he led me down the path of understanding that family and sports and doing the right thing and treating others with respect really will go a long way. And so with those benchmarks and those hallmarks after his passing, I had to find other role models, and fortunately, whether it be bosses or whether it be uncles or others, I've had that opportunity. But those that have had the opportunity to have their father for many years, if you ask them who's your hero, more likely than not to be the father.
When I think of my father, in many ways, he has had a profound impact on my life. When I reflect on my father, I can't help but to reflect on my mother too, because she was the person who enabled my father to do a great job. And I remember my father just being a hard worker. I saw over and over again the work ethics that he had as a man, the pride that he had. My father and my mother worked very hard to take care of their children. They wanted the best education for us. And my father was he was a disciplinary. And that's what I remember about my father the most. And I think without him being that man or that father who was a disciplinary with his children and even others in the neighborhood, that we could have easily gone in a different direction. And when I look back on life and look at the values of what my father and my mother imparted in me, I feel real good about that.
My father's impact on me. My father and my mother divorced when I was 5 years old. But during those early years, and even after they divorced, I watched my father. I had opportunities to be in his company. He took to the bottle. He started drinking corn liquor. That was his comfort zone. But he was also a man that never had an opportunity to explore and take advantage of the American dream. He was born and lived in a time when he could not hold his head up and look eye to eye to a white man when he passed him by. I remember walking with him one day and he nudged me to get off the sidewalk so that the white man could pass. My father was an electrician and a plumber, and nothing went up in Greenwood, Mississippi as far as a building is concerned that the people who wanted a really nice facility didn't call on my father, who couldn't even read or write. But he was a brilliant man. And observing him, listening to him, he had a motto. He said, baby, live whilst you're living. Take life as you find it, and live whilst you're living, and die when you just can't help it. I didn't understand when he would always say that. Take life as you find it, but live whilst you're living, and die when you just can't help it. I understood it by the time of his death, because my father inspired me without knowing he was inspiring me. By going ahead on when all odds were against him. By still working and staying in his place when he knew that his real place was in leadership. My father should have been a king. My father should have been a politician. He had all kinds of friends. My father should have been a leader in the community. But instead, he lived in a society and in a time period where if you spoke up or spoke out, you could end up hanging from a tree. So to keep from leaving this world, you see, because die when you just can't help it. He could help it. So why give myself over to die? He had seen too many of his relatives killed, murdered, left to hang. One ran over by a pickup truck till his body was practically flattened to the ground. He saw this. So in order to be around, to just love on his daughters, he chose to take the role to wear the mask. So my father was an inspiration, but
oh, you're gonna make me cry yet. My father, very strong, when we were growing up, and still a strong man. Not a big, I love you mushy kind of guy, you know. Just here as he's gotten older, he'll say, you know, I love you and do good and I'm proud of you, that kind of thing. But there was never a doubt in our minds that he loved us. There was never a doubt in our minds that he expected us to achieve and to do things. And the fact that he did finish high school, did not go to college, immediately started a family right after he graduated from high school, I think that fact not only led him to work and work and work to make sure we had everything we needed, but then to provide for us and to show us that this is a way you can do it. But if I can help you, if I can prepare, if I can provide a way for you not to have to do it like this and work this hard, I'll do it. And so I think that has impacted me, my 4 sisters, even my nieces and nephews and my parents' grandchildren, because they see that once you put your mind and your spirit and your soul to something, See it through through the end. Work for it. If you work hard enough, you can get it. You can achieve it. And anything, the old saying is, anything worth having is worth working for. That's my daddy walking all day, because he didn't mind working. He didn't mind doing the extra and pushing. And so I think what he poured into me, and when I got ready to go to grad school and got, thinking about jobs, and now that I am, a university professor, what sticks with me is doing the work. Do the work. Do the work. Whatever the work is that you have committed yourself to, do the work and achieve the American dream.
But my great-grandfather told me, when he was sitting on that garret talking to people who would come by, when he made me pledge that I would read every book that I can, that I would get all the education that I can, he made me pledge that seed being planted in me and seeing my father having to wear the mask. My great-grandfather told me, he said, baby, you's free, and don't you ever forget it. No man can do for you what God can do. Remember that you are his child. You don't belong to none of these others. And don't you ever step back and step down. You stand up. You speak up. You stand up, speak up, and be up about what you know is right. I can't let it go. It's a part of me. So inspiration, men being the leader, the head of the household, they were that in my life. Whether they were there physically, whether they were there financially. My mother was an educated teacher, but she never spoke ill against my father. My mother and my grandmother, they were very strong forces in our home. But it was always a great day whenever my father could come around. So yeah, I believe in the African American male. I believe in his potential. We need our men. We need our men to be men and not allow society to force them to take another route to exist. We need our men to stand up because they're free. They were born free in this generation.
In achieving my dreams, I know sometimes people dwell on what their parents did and did not do, and I don't. And I think that has been one of the lessons he has taught me, is not dwelling on the past, because there really is no past. You understand that there is a background to every person, that every person has a certain set of circumstances or a certain set of situations that they have gone through, but that does not determine exactly where you go. And so when it comes to me achieving my dreams, I look at God as being my ultimate father, and that him having the ultimate plan, that although I have plans for myself, I know that his supersedes mine.
You see, my great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, lived to be 107 years old. And he used to sit around on the, we call it the garret, the front porch. And he would see people, well, he couldn't see, he was blind. He would hear people coming up the dirt road. And he would always tell who was coming up the dirt road by their footsteps. And he had a word of inspiration for anyone that walked that way. Here come my preacher man, he used to say to my playmate, T.B. Brown. And he said, preacher man, show me your bone. He would talk about, say things like that. My girlfriend coming to play, we played jack rocks on the hard dirt ground and hopscotch. Here come my pretty gal, Nurse SMA, he called her. And she said, but I'm not going to be a nurse, Papa Dallas. I don't like to be around sick people, and I'm scared of blood. TB said, I ain't going to be no preacher man, Papa Dallas. I'm going to be a baseball player. And to both of them, he said, preacher man, shows your bone. Nurse SMA, shows your bone. That was inspiration. He told me one day when I asked him, Papa Dallas, what happened to your eyes? And when he told me his sad story of how he was blinded as a young child because he wanted to learn to read, he then turned to me and said, but you know, I need to tell you the whole story, because you's going to be a spokesperson one day. I said, a spokesperson? I was a little girl. Papa Dallas, I don't even know what that means. He said, that's all right, daughter. Spokesperson, shows you bone, shows you bone. I didn't know the seed was planted in me. I didn't recognize what he was doing and what he was saying, but throughout life, I found myself entering oratorical contests, being in plays. In my mind, I was going to be a medical doctor because there was so much sickness around me. But Papa Dallas had planted the seed. I didn't know that that inspiration was deeply rooted in me. I didn't realize that when Mr. Brown, who was the janitor in my school, would come up to me after a program and just hug me and say, little girl, and hold me back and say, you got some fire in you. I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't know when I went to California to graduate school and Frank Severa was our guest director, that when he looked at all of us and he auditioned all of us and he looked at me and said, you got it. You cooking girl. You got it. That he was planting a seed of inspiration. So these seeds just started stirring and the American dream was coming to life. The idea that you can be whatever you really want to be. The idea that with the right encouragement, you can make it. The idea that we all have a role to play in everybody's life. We have a role to play with everyone we meet. That's why you got to smile and let the world smile with you. That's why you've got to treat everybody like you want to be treated. That's why you cannot allow your personal business and your personal problems and your personal agonies and disruptions in your life affect somebody else. You need to pass on the words of inspiration. That to me is the American dream.
Oftentimes when we think of success, we measure it by what a person has done, their contributions to society. What about a life? How is it measured? Is it legacy, financial stability, or perhaps personality?
Success could be measured differently depending on the individual. But I really measure it by how one actually achieving the work and the experience, the hard work and experience that is recognized and getting and reaching the goals in which you set out for yourself.
I personally measure it in a lot more about achieving goals than having it be tied to something like either titles or wealth. Like if you've set out something that you wanted to do and you can do it and you want to do it, I think that's a really successful person, is people who have accomplished things that they've set out to do.
I measure success by my ability to maximize my potential, in an environment, because there's so many factors around us that we don't have control over. I look at the opportunities that I have to greater my talents and to use those talents to help other people.
I measure success by, creating goals and achieving them. I feel like I know how I want to be able to live. I know how I want my family to be able to live and be happy. And that requires a certain level of finance. And with anything, even though people say money can't buy happiness, I disagree. I think money can make things make you very happy. Now it might have some drawbacks here and there, but until you achieve where you feel like you can be comfortable, go and come as you please and do what you want to do when you want to, then you're still reaching. You're still striving towards something.
Being successful is about the individual. Being significant, I think, turns it around and gives it to the world. And so I think that measurement would be moving beyond success to significance so that you can make a great contribution to your community, both locally as well as at large.
I said different people's perspective on success will determine whether they feel like you're successful or not successful. But it's really a personal a personal thing as to whether you feel like you've made it or not?
Personally, I remember being a little girl, growing up in Mississippi, always being provided for. I mean, just never hungry, never without shoes and clothes and shelter, never really having a concept of being poor or without. My parents provided very well for us. We were not rich by any means, and we certainly didn't have wealth, but we were well taken care of, and we were loved, and we were embraced by a community of people with big aunties and play cousins and all, teachers who we went to church with, and then we saw them in the classroom, so we knew we couldn't act crazy because we were going to see it at church. So I think that coming from that background, my idea of what success is may be a little different from others, even perhaps of my generation. To me, success, again, is not having a lot of material stuff, but it is having a sense of grounding in who you are in your life and in your community. And that that there are various communities that you're a part of. I have a work community, I have a church community, I have my family, I have my neighborhood. To be able to be connected in meaningful ways to communities, to other people, to other human beings, to me that is success. Money is good. Yeah, money makes the world go round. It really does. But that can't be the measure of a life. Because people win and lose fortunes all the time. People get rich, they lose money. Even our president, billionaire, declared bankruptcy back in the past. And still, so that kind of measuring of success, I don't think that's valid because it's so fluid and so easily manipulated. But I think when we connect to our communities and we impact people positively, and someone can one day say, you made an impact on my life. I think that's at the end of your life, when you sit on the edge of your bed or lay in your hospital bed and that last fleeting light of light leaves your eye, or that last breath escapes, what's going to give us comfort is not our money. It's going to be our connections. And to know that we blessed, we helped, we encouraged somebody.
In modern society, the death of a dream is very prevalent. And sometimes dreams are simply deferred. But hold fast to dreams. For if a dream die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. One must hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen like snow.
In contemporary America, given what's going on now, my daughter calls it an extinction bubble. I think it's a pushback. Because whenever there is a progressive movement, and whenever any groups make progress toward something very different than what has gone before, you're going to have people who are very much entrenched, who fear encroachment, who are going to sort of dig in, and who are going to want to roll back whatever progress we've had toward human equality or egalitarianism or whatever else it is, or just justice. Because they want to keep their power and they want to keep it at the levels that they've always had.
Contemporary society, when we think about television and the immediacy of cell phones and the internet and Snapchat and Facebook, everything is immediate. Everything is right now. If I want to talk to you when you're ready to do this, you call me and I was here right then. I think sometimes dreams are worth waiting for. Dreams are worth fighting for. They're worth developing and nurturing and taking some time to see, is this where my dream needs to go? Is this how my dream needs to manifest? And unfortunately, modern day society says you can't take the time to develop your dream. You got to do it right now. It has to happen today, or we're going to move on without you, or life will move on without you. I think contemporary society, our immediate Burger King, your way, right away society, sometimes interferes with the development of a dream. It's like a baby that's born prematurely. There's the possibility that baby will have birth defects. All of its limbs, its organs, its body functions may not be fully developed because it just didn't have enough time to stay in the womb. If we're not careful, society will say to us, birth your dream. Come on, what's in you? What you got? Come on with it, come on. And the dream is not ready yet. So I think that's how negatively contemporary society can impact the dream. Now on the positive side,
I don't know that the modern day kills dreams. I think it modifies those dreams. It changes those dreams. Certainly the dream of technological advances and doing things in space are different that we've never thought about 60 years ago. But I just don't know that we ought to allow people to say that modernism kills the dreams. I think we kill the dream. The individual human being kills the dream. They've got the innate ability to dream and to go after that dream. And so do everything you can not to let you or others get in the way of that dream.
I would have to say, like, the biggest killer of dreams is social media, because there's so many people that once you put it out there that have so much negativity to say or talk about or discuss with it, it doesn't even matter the topic. You know, even if you're just talking about yourself and how you're happy, the fact that you graduated high school, the fact that you got admitted into college, there's going to be so many naysayers and negative people out there talking about it that, you know, you're never going to get the response you thought you were going to get when you put it out there to begin with. And the fact that everybody communicates and everybody can see everything, because there's some things that parents used to be able to keep from their children until they become adults that they don't have the luxury of anymore. And so kids are they're growing up with a whole lot more things going on in their head than just studying or just doing, you know, different things to be successful, because now they see all the negativity in the world, you know, in the world, not just your country or your state or your city or your town. It's the world, literally, because of the way that the internet and social media has allowed the rest of the world to come into your house.
On the positive side, that immediacy can help sometimes, because sometimes we get so comfortable with our dream till we don't want to birth it. We get so comfortable with it just being ours and our little secret thing, and fear says it's not going to happen. Nobody's going to accept it. They're going to call your baby ugly. They're going to talk about his misshapen head. So sometimes we hold our dreams because we're fearful. And sometimes society can say, come on now is the time, let's go. And that is the time. So both negatively and positively, contemporary society can influence dreams.
We have a saying within our city that we never let money get in the way of the vision, the dream. It gets in the way of the timing, but never the vision, never the dream. And so a dream deferred has the potential of never being realized. But if you have a choice of never having a dream or never going after a dream and delaying the dream, I'd say defer the dream until you have the intellectual and the emotional capacity to follow that dream.
I look at hope deferred, or as we say, dreams deferred, as being fuel for revolution.
Sometimes dreams simmer, and the tragedy is when people don't come to closure about them, or don't come back to those dreams, or don't change them, and they can just kind of simmer and settle, and it's something that stays with you, maybe like a rock in your shoe, about some of the stuff you didn't accomplish or some of the ideas you had about the future.
It does sag like a heavy load. and sometimes it does explode. Because unfortunately, I think a lot of, when we look at cities like Chicago, even Detroit, even Montgomery, even Birmingham, Meridian, Mississippi, where there are a lot of young black men who are killing one another. It reminds me of the terrible moment in the 1980s when we were in the throes of gang wars. It seems like we're moving backwards, but now it's not even necessarily connected to gangs. I think that a lot of that frustration, a lot of that misguidance and misdirection is because society, perhaps even parents, don't know how to help our children access their dreams, access what's already in them. And so whether we mean it or not, whether we realize it's happening or not, we are deferring or causing to be deferred their dreams. They feel like there's no way out of the Chicago ghetto. They feel like there's no way out. And so they find a way that gives them some kind of release or some kind of feeling of something. And if we could find a way to tap into their dreams, even through our education system, elementary school, middle school, high school, if we can find a way to help them tap into and identify their dreams, perhaps they won't sag so heavy, and prayerfully they won't explode.
The American dream can be described more so as just an opportunity to live, to be more than what you started as, an opportunity to be successful in one's own right. As shown in the works of Lorraine Hansberry, Arthur Miller, Langston Hughes, and August Wilson, and so many everyday people, the American dream is made up of many ideas and concepts. After all, America is the land of opportunity.
We marched, we sung, we took the multi cocktails thrown to our homes. We witnessed schoolmates being beaten. And now we come and we stand tall and we look at you all and we teach and try to plant a seed. That's why I have my summer camps. I want to plant the seed in the hearts and minds of the young people that we work with, to let them know that you're great. You come from a strong people. Whatever you do, don't step back, don't step down. You are needed. My aunt was very ill and they had to call in a specialist in Jackson, Mississippi some years ago. And we kept waiting on a specialist. And we kept waiting, he couldn't come. So they kept her in the hospital. So finally he shows up. He flies in to treat her, and I arrive after he's there. He just happened to be in there talking to her. And I walked into the room and I looked at him and he said, "Oh my God." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Don't you remember me? You were my teacher." I said, "At Jackson State?" He said, "Yes." He said, "That was your first year teaching." He said, "Lady," and he just grabbed me. I said, "Now, you the doctor?" He said, "Yeah, I'm in Washington." And I came down because this was a special case. I said, "Lord have mercy. We've been waiting for you." That's what I see when I see you all. Lord have mercy. We wait.
Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for